Confidence is one of the most misunderstood yet deeply magnetic qualities a man can possess. For many people, confidence is mistaken for bravado, loud talk, flashy displays, or dominating every conversation. But for women who are emotionally in tune and grounded in self-awareness, real confidence is something quieter, subtler, and far more compelling. It's in the way a man walks into a room without needing the room to notice him. It's in the way he speaks calmly without over-explaining. It's in the way he makes decisions without needing external validation or applause. Women are highly intuitive beings. They can read energy, body language, and intention without a single word being spoken. And when a man carries himself with quiet assurance, when he doesn't overcompensate or try to prove his worth, she notices. His presence speaks louder than noise. He doesn't need to dominate the space, and yet his energy fills it. Confidence at this level communicates security, emotional, psychological, and even spiritual. It's an unshakable inner knowing that says, I know who I am, and I'm not trying to be anything I'm not. This kind of confidence creates emotional safety. And for women, emotional safety is everything. When she's around him, she doesn't feel judged, pressured, or diminished. She feels seen, heard, and most importantly, at ease. There is something deeply calming about a man who is secure within himself. It allows her to soften, to relax, to be feminine without fearing that she'll have to lead emotionally or carry the relationship on her shoulders. His grounded nature gives her space to be herself, to open up and to feel held without needing to perform. On the flip side, insecurity is loud. It constantly seeks reassurance, demands attention, and relies on control. It shows up as bragging, oversharing, interrupting, or needing to be right. Insecurity creates emotional chaos and confusion. It pushes women away because it demands emotional labor. When a man is insecure, it shows in how he reacts to rejection, how he handles silence, how he responds to her independence. And no matter how good-looking, wealthy, or charming he may be, if she senses that his confidence is a facade built on validation, she will instinctively pull away. True confidence doesn't fear rejection because it doesn't seek approval. A confident man is not trying to win her over. He's showing up as he is, and she can choose to engage or not. He doesn't get thrown off if she takes time to reply, if she needs space, or if she challenges him intellectually. His sense of self remains intact, regardless of how she responds, and that is profoundly attractive. It signals emotional strength. It tells her that she can trust him to be stable when things get complicated, to stay centered when life becomes uncertain. This is why confidence is not just about attraction, it's about leadership in a relationship. A woman chooses a man who can lead himself first. A man who's in control of his emotions, who knows how to hold space for others without losing himself, who isn't threatened by her power, independence, or complexity. She chooses the man who can stand in silence without fidgeting, who can listen without trying to fix, who can offer presence without pressure. That kind of quiet confidence tells her he's not in competition with her or the world. He's simply rooted in who he is. Confidence also manifests in how a man deals with failure and vulnerability. He doesn't avoid discomfort. He faces it, learns from it, and grows through it. When he's wrong, he admits it. When he doesn't know something, he says so without shame. That humility, wrapped in strength, creates a deeper kind of confidence, one that is not about dominance, but about authenticity, and that's what creates lasting emotional attraction. A man who is not pretending, not performing, not chasing approval, but instead simply living and loving from a place of grounded self-awareness. Women don't choose the loudest man, they choose the most centered one. The one who doesn't seek validation because he already knows his worth. Emotional maturity is one of the most underrated qualities in a man, yet it is one of the most powerful forces that pulls a woman in deeply. It is not something that can be faked or rehearsed because it shows in the small, everyday moments. A man's emotional maturity speaks through how he handles disappointment, how he manages his anger, how he responds to emotional triggers, and how he treats others when no one is watching. Women may be initially drawn to a man's looks, success, or charm, but what keeps them emotionally invested, what makes them feel safe and seen, is how emotionally mature he is. A woman doesn't want a man who shuts down or explodes every time a difficult conversation comes up. She doesn't want to feel like she has to walk on eggshells just to keep the peace. Emotional maturity means he can hold space for difficult emotions, both his and hers, without needing to escape, attack, or blame. It means he's not controlled by impulse. He takes a pause before reacting. He reflects before speaking. He tries to understand before defending. This doesn't make him weak. In fact, it makes him incredibly strong, because true strength is not about how loud he can be, but how grounded he remains when things get messy. When a man is emotionally mature, he doesn't get offended by a woman's feelings. He doesn't take her emotions as a personal attack. Instead, he listens. He validates. He allows her to feel without trying to fix her. Instead, he refuses to evaluate her feelings and says, "I can feel what I feel, but I will do my best. I trust you. You don't have to do more than you feel comfortable with. I trust you. I like you for you, not for what you do." And so we need to see a segment of history that implements historically. When racial strife was an actual threat, it didn't feel like it does now. He understands that emotions are not problems to solve, but truths to acknowledge. And in that space, he builds a deeper emotional connection than any romantic gesture ever could. Because it's not about grand displays of affection. It's about being consistently safe, honest, and aware. Women remember how a man makes them feel in their vulnerable moments. If she cries in front of him, does he retreat or does he lean in? If she voices a concern, does he get defensive or does he ask how to do better? If she sets a boundary, does he respect it or try to test it? These are the questions her subconscious is always asking, because they tell her everything she needs to know about whether she can truly open her heart. Emotional maturity assures her that she can be herself fully, freely, unapologetically, without fear of being judged, dismissed, or emotionally abandoned. This level of maturity also shows in how a man handles himself. He doesn't ghost when things get hard. He doesn't play games or manipulate her into chasing him. He communicates clearly, even when it's uncomfortable. He can say what he means and mean what he says. He understands that clarity is kindness, and that honesty, even when it's hard to hear, is far more respectful than sugar-coated lies or silent treatment. This kind of integrity builds trust, and trust is the foundation of any relationship that's meant to last. Emotionally mature men also know how to apologize. Not with excuses or defensiveness, but with sincerity. They take responsibility for their actions. They understand the impact of their words. They don't just say, "I'm sorry." They show it through changed behavior. This humility, paired with self-awareness, is incredibly attractive to a woman who values emotional connection over surface-level attraction. She doesn't need perfection. She needs presence, accountability, and growth. And growth is exactly what emotional maturity invites into a relationship. A man who is emotionally mature doesn't fear evolution. He embraces it. He is open to feedback. He welcomes emotional intimacy. He knows that real relationships require effort, reflection, and mutual care. He doesn't run at the first sign of discomfort. He leans in, even when it's hard. He seeks to understand her world, not just insert himself into it. And he makes her feel emotionally held, not just physically desired. This is why emotional maturity is not just an advantage, it's a necessity for any man who wants to be truly chosen. It is the difference between temporary attraction and lasting connection. It creates a space where a woman can rest, trust, and flourish, knowing that the man beside her has the emotional capacity to stand beside her, not just when things are good, but especially when they're not. Because emotional maturity is not about being perfect. It's about being present, aware, and real in every moment they share. Purpose is a powerful force in a man's life, and it is one of the most attractive qualities a woman notices without him even saying a word. A man who is purpose-driven carries a different kind of energy, focused, grounded, forward-moving. He knows what he wants out of life, and he's actively pursuing it. He's not just drifting from day to day, reacting to life as it comes. He's intentional, not just about his goals, but about his time, his habits, his mindset, and the way he shows up in the world. A man with purpose doesn't need to chase anyone, because his direction naturally draws people, including women, toward him. When a woman observes a man who is anchored in purpose, she feels something unique: security without control, leadership without domination, ambition without arrogance. His drive isn't loud or boastful, but steady and consistent. It doesn't matter what field he's in or how much money he has. What matters is that he wakes up with clarity and moves with intention. That energy is magnetic. It tells her that he won't get lost in her, that he won't require her to fill in the emotional gaps in his life, that he has a mission greater than himself and is building something that extends beyond just their relationship. This kind of man doesn't wait for the world to hand him a blueprint. He creates one. He doesn't wait for validation or applause before he takes action. He's internally motivated. That sense of internal direction is what sets him apart. It's what makes a woman feel safe, not just emotionally, but psychologically, because she knows she's aligning with someone who is stable, focused, and determined. She can see that his life has structure, and within that structure, there's space for her, but not dependency on her. Women are naturally drawn to men who are going somewhere, not because they want to ride on his success, but because his momentum inspires her to keep moving in her own life. A man with purpose adds value to a woman's life without trying to control it. He's not intimidated by her ambitions because he's too focused on building his own. He's not threatened by her strength because he recognizes the strength it takes to walk your own path. He doesn't get distracted by temporary pleasures or momentary validation because he's in tune with a bigger picture, a longer game. In relationships, a purpose-driven man doesn't get lost in drama. He doesn't overreact to setbacks. He sees every challenge as an opportunity to grow. He approaches love the same way he approaches his goals, with effort, consistency, and vision. He is not here to waste her time, nor his own. This makes him incredibly attractive to a woman who values depth and commitment. She sees that his life is not defined by her presence, but it is enhanced by it. That difference is subtle, but it's everything. She doesn't feel like his emotional crutch or his project. She feels like a partner, walking alongside someone who knows exactly where he's going. A man with purpose is also selective. He doesn't entertain every option. He's intentional about who he lets into his space because he knows that his mission requires clarity and alignment. This discernment tells a woman she's not just another choice. She's a conscious decision. And that level of intention makes her feel chosen in a way that words alone cannot express. She knows that being with him isn't about convenience or timing. It's about alignment with his values, his direction, and his sense of legacy. Purpose gives a man something bigger than ego to live for. It humbles him and strengthens him at the same time. It makes him reliable during uncertainty, focused during distraction, and powerful in silence. He doesn't need to control outcomes because he's committed to the process. He doesn't seek validation because he finds fulfillment in growth. This kind of man doesn't just attract women, he commands respect, inspires loyalty, and creates connection on a soul-deep level. And for a woman looking not just for a partner, but for a legacy, a journey, a vision she can walk into with someone, there is nothing more attractive than a man who lives with intention, builds with purpose, and leads with quiet conviction. His life becomes a map of meaning, and every step he takes forward reminds her why choosing him is not just an emotional decision, but a deeply intelligent one. There is a kind of man women remember long after the conversations end, long after the moment has passed. It's not the one with the perfect smile or the flashy car, but the one who made her feel deeply seen. The man who noticed her silence when others only heard her words. The one who could look past the image she showed the world and connect with the layers she rarely let anyone near. This man doesn't just look at her, he sees her. And for a woman, that experience is unforgettable. To be seen is to feel chosen, not for a role she plays, not for her appearance, not for her usefulness, but for her essence. A man who sees a woman beyond the surface listens in ways most don't. And she listens to that, and now she sees a woman beyond the surface. Listens in ways most don't. He listens with his eyes, with his body, with his presence. He doesn't interrupt her thoughts or try to fix her feelings. He doesn't wait for his turn to speak. He immerses himself in her world, even if only for a moment. And she feels that. She feels it in how he remembers the little details, the way he picks up on her energy shifting, the way he pauses when she hesitates. These are not grand gestures, but quiet signs that say, I'm paying attention, not because I want something from you, but because you matter to me. When a woman feels seen, something within her softens. The armor she's learned to wear in a world that often objectifies, judges, and misunderstands her begins to melt. She begins to trust. Not because he's perfect, but because he's present. And presence, real presence, is one of the most intimate forms of affection. It's not about being in the same room. It's about making her feel like the only one in it. It's about tuning into her without distractions, without ulterior motives, without performance. That level of focus is rare, and that rarity makes it precious. Seeing a woman goes beyond compliments. Compliments are easy. Noticing her nail color, her dress, or her perfume is nice, but those things are on the surface. What moves her is when a man recognizes the tiredness behind her smile, the courage behind her vulnerability, the passion in her voice when she talks about what she loves. What draws her in is when he asks about the things she doesn't always show, the dreams she keeps hidden, the fears she hasn't named. It's in these moments that she realizes this man isn't just interested in her, he's curious about her. This curiosity is not invasive or controlling, it's respectful, gentle, and sincere. It comes from a place of emotional intelligence. He doesn't try to own her story, he holds space for it. He doesn't try to rewrite her past, he honors it. He doesn't try to change who she is, he encourages her to become more of who she already is. That kind of support doesn't feel like pressure, it feels like home. And when a woman feels emotionally at home with someone, she opens up in ways that surprise even herself. The man who makes her feel seen doesn't need to speak in poetry. His presence is enough. His energy tells her, you don't have to shrink here. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to be anyone other than who you truly are. And that permission, that freedom, is something she never forgets. Because most women have spent years being looked at without truly being understood. So when she meets someone who actually sees her, she feels safe, she feels valued, she feels alive in his presence. This kind of connection isn't built overnight. It's built through consistency, through attention, through the quiet decision to be fully present in every interaction. Whether she's speaking about something important or something mundane, whether she's dressed to impress or caught off guard in her vulnerability, he sees her. And in seeing her, he communicates something far more powerful than attraction. He communicates acceptance. And acceptance, in its purest form, creates a foundation where intimacy, trust, and love can truly grow. When a woman feels seen, she feels chosen, not just for who she is now, but for who she is becoming. And the man who can hold both, the woman in front of him and the woman she's growing into, is the one she gravitates toward with all of herself. Not because he's chasing her, but because his presence feels like recognition, like understanding, like belonging. A man who holds strong boundaries, who knows where he ends and the world begins, is often the one women gravitate toward with quiet certainty, not because he is rigid or controlling, but because he moves with a sense of clarity and self-respect that commands admiration. Boundaries are not walls meant to push others away. They are bridges of self-awareness that invite the right kind of people in. A man with boundaries understands that his time, energy, emotions, and values are not up for negotiation. He knows what he stands for, and because of that, he becomes deeply trustworthy in the eyes of a woman who values emotional safety. Strong boundaries show up in the way he says no without guilt, in the way he doesn't overextend himself to please everyone, in the way he walks away from chaos without feeling the need to explain. He doesn't get pulled into unnecessary drama. He doesn't entertain energy that drains him. And he doesn't stay in situations that go against his values just to be liked or accepted. This level of self-respect is powerful. It communicates to a woman that he can handle himself, that he can lead not by force, but by example. It lets her know that he will not lose himself in her, and he won't expect her to lose herself in him. There's something deeply magnetic about a man who refuses to tolerate disrespect, not just from others, but also from himself. When a man has boundaries, he speaks from a place of integrity. He's not afraid of confrontation when it's necessary, but he doesn't seek it either. He communicates clearly, not to dominate, but to create alignment. He values peace, not people-pleasing. He values honesty, not performance. And that sets the tone for how he moves through every interaction. For a woman, this creates a different kind of attraction. It tells her that he has a strong inner compass, that he can stand on his own, emotionally and mentally. It tells her that she won't have to guess where she stands with him because he's clear about who he is and what he needs. And clarity is one of the most underrated forms of intimacy. When a man is clear with himself, he can be clear with her. He doesn't send mixed signals, he doesn't play games, he doesn't build connection only to withdraw it later. His boundaries keep the relationship honest, grounded, and safe. Boundaries also teach a woman how to treat him, not through manipulation or demands, but through consistency. He shows up in a way that models self-respect. He holds himself to a standard and expects the same from those around him. That expectation doesn't come from arrogance, it comes from self-worth. He knows what he deserves, and he's not afraid to walk away from what doesn't align. That quiet strength invites admiration. It makes her feel like she can trust him, not just with her body, but with her heart, her mind, her emotions. Many people confuse boundaries with being closed off, but in reality, the opposite is true. Boundaries are what allow true intimacy to flourish. When a man sets healthy limits, it creates space for freedom, not control. It allows both partners to be individuals while growing together. It protects the relationship from resentment, confusion, and emotional burnout. For a woman, being with a man who knows how to protect his energy without shutting her out is deeply reassuring. She feels like she can be fully herself without having to carry the weight of managing his emotions or sacrificing her own needs just to maintain peace. This kind of man doesn't just demand respect. He embodies it. In the way he carries himself, in the decisions he makes, in the way he doesn't chase validation. He honors his word, keeps his promises, and walks away from situations that threaten his integrity. And that inspires a woman to rise in her own standards, to mirror that same level of respect, to bring her best self forward because she knows that she's engaging with someone who will not tolerate anything less than real mutual connection. His boundaries don't make him unapproachable. They make him irresistible. Because in a world full of blurred lines, a man who can draw clear ones with confidence and compassion is a rare and undeniable presence. Confidence is often misunderstood as arrogance or loudness, but the kind of confidence that deeply captivates a woman is quiet, grounded, and unmistakably real. It's not the man who boasts or demands attention that holds her gaze. It's the man who moves through the world with a steady sense of self, one who doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. He walks into a room and doesn't try to dominate it. He simply belongs there. He speaks not to impress, but because he has something to say. His words carry weight, not because they're loud, but because they come from a place of certainty. This quiet confidence draws her in without effort, without theatrics, without performance. A confident man knows who he is, and more importantly, he knows who he is not. He's not defined by others' opinions or his relationship status. He doesn't seek permission to take up space. He doesn't ask for approval to exist in his authenticity. This inner stability is what makes him so compelling. A woman feels it in his body language, in the way he holds eye contact, in the ease of his movements, in the way he listens without feeling the need to interrupt. Confidence, in its truest form, is presence. It's a calm, unshakable presence that doesn't need to announce itself to be felt. This man doesn't chase. He doesn't try to convince anyone to choose him. He simply shows up, as he is, fully and unapologetically. He trusts that the right people will recognize his value, and he's comfortable walking away from those who don't. That self-trust is magnetic. It communicates to a woman that he doesn't need her to complete him. He is already whole. He wants her, but he doesn't need her to feel valid, worthy, or secure. And that creates the kind of relationship dynamic where both people can thrive without losing themselves in each other. Confidence also shows in how he handles rejection and setbacks. He doesn't crumble when things don't go his way. He doesn't react with anger or insecurity when a woman sets a boundary or pulls away. He respects her decision and keeps moving forward. His sense of self is not tied to any one outcome. He's grounded in the understanding that life will bring both wins and losses, and his value isn't diminished by either. That kind of emotional steadiness creates trust. It tells her that he can handle the ups and downs of life and love without collapsing under pressure. What's even more attractive is that his confidence isn't rooted in perfection. He doesn't pretend to have it all figured out. He's not afraid to admit when he's wrong, to say, "I don't know," or to ask for help. Because true confidence isn't about being flawless, it's about being real. He knows his strengths and owns his flaws. And that self-awareness, that willingness to be seen in all his humanity, makes him feel approachable, not intimidating. It makes a woman feel safe, not judged. It invites openness, vulnerability, and deep connection. This kind of confidence also allows him to uplift others without feeling diminished. He doesn't compete with the people he cares about. He doesn't get jealous of a woman's success or shrink in the presence of her power. He celebrates it. He supports it. He sees her as a reflection of his own capacity to love fully, not as a threat to his masculinity. And that emotional maturity creates an environment where trust and intimacy can grow. He's not playing roles. He's showing up as his full self. And in doing so, he gives her permission to do the same.